Do your project include a communication management plan or a stakeholder management plan? But what's the difference between these two documents? That's the topic of this video. I'm going to explain what these two documents could include. But I would like to answer the question of so many people. Do I need these two documents in my project? The answer is it depends. If your project is so big and you have dozens or hundreds of stakeholders and it's a complex situation and you'd like to succeed your project no matter how, then you need both of these documents. But if your project is small, maybe it's a couple of months, or there is not a lot of stakeholders, you can keep in mind all this stuff as a project manager, then maybe you don't need these two documents. So it all depends to you. In this video, I'm going to explain both what they include, what purpose these documents are created for, and then it's your decision whether to create these two documents or not. On the internet, there is a lot of templates for both documents. You can find a lot of samples. There is no single format, but I'm just going to go through the concepts, and in your company you might have other kind of implementations which is different from the general concept. So let's deep dive into the topic of this video. The communication management plan defines who, what, and how. Who is the target audience, whether it's a key stakeholder, the CEO, the other stakeholder groups, etc. And what are their expectations? And usually we create a communication management plan to take care of any risk that might arise if we are not engaging stakeholder appropriately. And the who here is that we define the target audience. Usually the target audience is key stakeholders, but it's not a rule. Sometimes we expand the communication management plan to all the stakeholders, and it defines what communication should we use for each group of stakeholder. Okay, so this is the first part. The second part is what? What kind of message should we share with these people? And in what format we should share this message? For example, if we are going to share an update of our project, then what kind of format? Is it an Excel sheet? Is it digital or is it on paper? So all this should be discussed in the what. And the third part is how we are going to deliver that message. Delivery or the tool that we are going to use, the formality, whether it's a formal message or informal communication, the frequency, should update the stakeholder or get in touch with the stakeholder once a month or once a week. So all these details should be defined in the how. And finally, who is going to take care of the stakeholder? Who is going to send the message to the target audience or use that tool to send the message? And who is going to write the message and send it on the agreed frequency? So this is the owner also is part of the communication management plan. Sometimes at the beginning of the project, we don't know this owner. This person is not yet recruited, so we just define that we need an owner to take part of this communication part. Same for the target audience. At the beginning of the project, it's possible that we don't know all the stakeholders because at a certain level, when the project progresses, we might encounter other stakeholders that we don't know already, and we should define that in the communication management plan, that if we find out that this stakeholder belongs to that category, we should apply this process. I will show you an example from my real experience. I have this project status shared every week by the project manager when I was a coordination project manager at that time. The project manager at that time, who is called Jitendra, always sent this status report to all key stakeholders every week on Friday. So the target audience is key stakeholders, and the message was project status report, and he was sending it every week, frequency, on a formal way, emails, using email, and the project manager is the owner of this action. Whatever the status, if there is no changes in the status after 1 week, he still sends the same report to the same people. Why is that? Because this action is part of a communication management plan. If you don't have this communication plan written, maybe it's in the mind of the project manager. He is having a communication management plan in his mind and he is applying it on a regular basis, but he doesn't know that he is literally following the steps of a communication management plan. What the advantage? In one of our meetings, the key stakeholder said, I'm aware of your project. I got a weekly updates in the last period. So how I could help, how I could push forward. So sending this report on a regular basis, even the stakeholder is not involved 100% or is not having a high interest in the project, but involve them for a long period of time might have a positive effect later on once you encounter this stakeholder and talk to that stakeholder. They might help you because you as a project manager or you as a project management team giving credit to this person and show them that they are helpful and show them that VIP person. Okay, so now let's move on to the second part, which is the stakeholder management plan. The stakeholder management plan actually is going to help you through the stakeholder engagement process. So let me explain the process first, and then we will see how this stakeholder management plan fits into that process. The first is identifying all the stakeholders. Second, you analyze and understand your stakeholders. Third, you prioritize the stakeholders of your project. Fourth, you engage them. And fifth, you monitor their engagement. And then you keep doing the same cycle again and again and identify if there is new stakeholder. And once new stakeholder is identified, you analyze and understand them and you continue the cycle. So a stakeholder management plan will define this process and will tell what we should do for identifying stakeholders. Here we can have a stakeholder register. In this management plan, we say that we need to create a register. Or there is a link within that document to the register itself. We have another video about stakeholder register. If you did not watch it, you can go back and watch this video. It explains how we create a stakeholder register. After creating the stakeholder register, you define what tool you are going to use for analyzing and understanding the stakeholders. We might use the power interest matrix. We might use the assessment matrix. We might use other tools for analyzing and understanding stakeholders. The stakeholder management plan defines what tools we will use according to which type of stakeholder we have. For example, if we are having a key stakeholder, we should right away use the engagement assessment matrix and prioritize using the power and trust grid. So after doing this, we can define what tool to prioritize, and if someone is top priority, how we should engage that stakeholder. And the management plan tells us the steps on how to engage that stakeholder. And engaging the stakeholder, a few stakeholders, then you could just write the steps to engage the stakeholder, which is actually what we have seen here. These are the steps for engaging the stakeholders. So if it's a small project, stakeholder management plan, you should have a section here. This is stakeholder management plan, and here a section for engagement. And that's it. But if your project is so big, then this how-to will be in a separate document, which is the communication management plan. It explains in much more details how you are developing the communication. So the stakeholder management is a fundamental document, and you can include in it this part, communicating with stakeholders. But if your project is so big, then this part will be in a separate document called communication management plan. Okay, you got this point? And here, monitoring is also a second step after engagement, and it keeps an eye on the consequences after engagement. What should you observe in order to decide whether your analysis are still relevant or not? And then you go back. So the stakeholder management plan, to sum up, is a document that explains how to deal with stakeholders and how to engage stakeholders. But if engagement stakeholders is a lengthy process and needs more explanation, then it should go into a communication management plan as a separate document. Hopes that the difference is clear now. And if you have any questions, again, don't hesitate to leave your comments in the comment box.